What's going on, people of the internet, and welcome to the long-awaited, long-delayed review here at the Experience Point for Horizon Forbidden West. We're excited, can't wait to get into it. Joining me along this review experience is Thor Kage himself, DJK. What's up, my dude?
What's up? Glad to finally be able to do this one.
Yeah, don't worry, we don't blame you for well, Logan does, I don't. So, speaking of Logan, join us as the interviewer slash interviewee dude person along the way to Birdman himself, Logan B. What's up?
What is up, everybody? Basically, as you guys have asked, it's finally here. It's the day.
It's it's
Very
finally
excited
happening.
to learn. It is finally happening. So yeah, excited to learn more. I have a few questions I'll ask. Probably not talk too much because this is mostly a DJ and mic thing. But yeah, very excited to learn more and hear what you guys think.
That's okay. You're here for the experience, right? You're here just for yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. You're here for the ambiance that we're about to give you. So, if you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Experience Point. We are a YouTube and podcasting channel. If you like what you're hearing here, please go over to our YouTube and Patreon pages. You can find us by searching Experience Point, spelled XPERIENCEPOINT. You can find us there on the XP Podcast, where we go through week in and week out and give you all the news and happenings inside and out of the video game world. If you do, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you can be aware of everything we post when we decide to post that. If you're new, if this is your first review with us here, a little bit of information about how we do it. We break it down via 5 categories, that being visuals, sound and score, story and narrative, gameplay, and individual opinions, which is how we come up with our final score from the games, and we give each game a trophy reward, that being platinum being top tier, gold being good to great, silver being above average to good, bronze being average to below average, and anything under that doesn't get a trophy at all. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the review for Horizon Forbidden West, starting off with the first category, as always, visuals. And DJ, I don't know about you, man, but I can say that for a game this size, for a game this big, and how big it is, I don't think I've ever seen character models as good, as deep, as fleshed out throughout the game ever before. You?
Yeah, definitely. Like Red Dead 2, I think. Definitely Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm pretty sure that's the biggest map up until Red Dead. And then I don't know if Horizon Zero Dawn was bigger, but this is definitely way bigger. And kind of like we've talked about before, the characters in those other games, it's the main characters, and the main characters or the side characters you're gonna have a cutscene with are modeled out and great. The NPCs are kind of meh. In this, you can pretty much have not a full on cutscene, but everyone's modeled out. Now there isn't as many people in these games, but all of them still. It doesn't matter if they're just off having a side conversation that you can't really even butt into. They're fully modeled and look incredible, and that's just the people alone. Like everything is so modeled and so detailed. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is impressive. Like even if you go to just like the general shopkeepers or anything like that, um, the level of detail, especially like if you zoom in close and you examine some of the texture work and details within those characters, is massively impressive. And like you said, it may be a little bit easier because there's not as many characters. Hey, but at least the characters don't disappear when you're walking behind them. Oh, sorry, I just had to get a little dig in on Cyberpunk there. Um, but yeah, it's overall a hugely impressive game. Now, I did want to ask you a couple questions there, Mr. DJ. You did play this on the PS4 for information purposes. I played it on the PS5. Um, Obviously, we're not gonna have a side by side comparison. There's no way for like you to see what's coming in on my TV or anything like that. But at least on my end, the world design and especially the world density, the the denseness of the foliage and everything that you are walking around and roaming around is wildly impressive and continually jaw dropping. Even at 80 plus hours in, I still find myself just like walking around. Especially like I remember when Logan came down. One of the things that's still impressive this to this day to me is when you're in more of the snowy areas and you're walking through a bush. Each individual like bush has different textured and layered uh um like interactions and realistic physics that the snow falls off on. And there's a laundry list of little details and things that bring this world to life. But like, what did you think about the world density on the PS4, and is it still as impressive as it is on the more modern PS5?
I feel like it is. Like and like you're talking about too. It wasn't just like oh, characters walking through a bush covered in snow, or or in the rainforest, a tree branch or something that should be covered in water, and it just triggers like the same little, like, every single one is a different poof of mist or a poof of snow, or like even the footsteps. It they could just do like a regular step and like have a perfect pattern behind you, but like you can see like like even I'm picking up on the lesser of the two consoles. Like I'm picking up, you can see like different weight shifts from step to step. Um, like different footprint like shape and stuff that takes place when you're running through a muddy area. I don't know, like you said, you get caught up just like staring off into space, like
Oh, all the
looking at
time,
your surroundings.
all the time,
Like
man.
like saying that kind of made me think while I was still trying to play through, I was getting caught up in some side missions just because I that's how we play. So it's hard to really play straight through. Um, how people can just play the main mission and that's it and call the game beat, I'll never understand.
Oh, damn, damn.
um,
Digging into the guy that's not even a part of the review, huh?
um, I know, but I know you're gonna do it at some point, so I had to jump just a
Fair
little
enough.
bit.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like I got caught realizing that, like, looking up at the Milky Way and just space in general, it's not just a generic, yep, there's space. Like, no, there's like you see shooting stars and other comets, and like once in a while you can catch a glimpse at what looks like it might be another planet, or like bright enough to be another planet. Um, even the detail as there's a couple areas that have murky water instead of just, oh, the water's all crystal clear with just a glare on top from the sunlight. Like, no, some of the water is mucky, murky, swampy.
Oh
Like,
yeah, when you're like in the deep forested areas and you go into the water and you compare that to like the beach areas when you get towards the more
yeah,
western sides of the map, it's crazy. And like I remember when I first got to a beach area, my jaw hit the fucking floor, dude. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
it's so crazy. And like just the difference of kind of like like the size of them. Like in the first one you get, you're kind of in Denver ish area. I think you actually look at an old crumbled stadium around Denver. And like this one, you're like just on the other side of that, and you go through the desert. You hit, I mean, they talk about San Francisco. I think, do they name drop Vegas, or are they trying to say that's something like it? Um, it's so expansive, but at the same time, like you recognize, like, if everything crumbled and was dystopian, I mean, we're not far off from that now in real life. So like, who knows, maybe in by 2074, like, Vegas really is a blown over, like, where all the main walking areas is buried in sand, and it's crumbled and decrepit, but all the light shows are still going on outside.
Yeah.
Like, that was awesome. um I don't remember, other than because I haven't really revisited that area of the map where you're in near San Francisco, like, but that was just jaw dropping to see that whole cityscape. And like, honestly, it was such a leap and a jump from Zero Dawn to this, that it's like,
Oh, a massive jump. We're talking about like it's barely even compares. Like I go back and watch videos on Zero Dawn, and I was like, wow. I remember Zero Dawn looking fantastic, and to be fair, it is still a very beautiful game.
yeah,
But like
but
it doesn't hold a candle to what is
like it's
presented
it's
here.
already it's already got me hyped to like we kind of figured at the end of Zero Dawn, okay, we're probably going to explore more of America. But like this has me hyped for like we can pretty much go anywhere and do anything at this point. Like it's open ended as to where they're gonna put what I hope won't be the last in a trilogy, but I mean I also don't want to see Horizon games ran into the ground like they've done with um Assassin's Creed. So, but
Yeah, I don't think
it'll
it
be
will be.
crazy to see how big this next map gets.
There's
And
there's 5 years difference in between the first two. I do not think that we have to fear that Sony is gonna Assassin's
no,
Creedify Horizon.
but like I like just this the leap in scale between the two games has me excited for how I don't want to say over the top, but hyper realistic. Like there's like we'll get into there are a few things with the a few hiccups in the visuals, but it's so minor and it does like it to me it really only took away in a few of the cutscenes, but other than that, like by far one of the best visual games I've ever played.
Oh yeah, I think especially again, like you were saying, for how massive and how big this game is. Like I don't really know what the square mileage is. I don't look that too deep into the game, but a game that can be this massive and this varied and still look this impressive moment to moment every single time you look at any single screenshot, you can sit back and be like, yeah, that is a good looking game. I did want to backtrack a little bit, and you were saying how you believe the beginning areas are set in the Colorado area. And that was one of the cool things about the first Zero Dawn. Spoilers, real quick, heads up for Zero Dawn if you haven't played it. One of the big mysteries around the surrounding the game was its place and its setting. Like they didn't come out and tell you. They didn't make it obvious. You had to go out and kind of learn that through some of the side collectibles and some of the things, and you slowly piece together where you were in the world, and especially now that we know where you were in the United States. And knowing that and having that set and knowing that this is set in the west of that was a weird sentence. And that this is set in the west from that game, obviously being called the Forbidden West. I think the biomes that Gorilla was able to build and able to kind of like manifest and fit together in not just a believable way or not just like a conceptual standpoint of how impressive or how massive it is, but the fact that they were able to kind of weave and piece things together that not only is believable in the game, but also it gives you a grander sense of scale and everything when you're in the game because like you do identify being in the desert area, being around where you are in the grander scale of the map of the United States, and you do have like that idea of the distance between the desert areas of the United States and the more beach areas of the coast and out there out the west. So being in that and having that little bit of knowledge, the game does a good job of creating scale that's not there realistically within the game. And I just had to take my hat off and prop that because like there were times where I was like in the desert area and I'm like, man, I need to go to uh what is eventually is revealed to be the San Francisco area, and I'm like, that's a long ass way to get there. It's not really within the grand scope of the game, but like I said, the visual design and the visual interpretation of these different biomes that the West is culturally diverse in, I think is very impressive. And again, tip of the hat should be Gorilla should be applauded for the work that they were able to do in piecing this map together and building this map. Like I said, I've said many times that Zero Dawn is, you know, one of, if not, I think the most interesting world map and world design games of its kind. Again, that is is an opinion I hold, and maybe some people agree, maybe some people don't agree, but it's opinion that I hold nonetheless. And I think this game is every bit as interesting, even without that mystery behind where you are that drove the exploration in Zero Dawn, as opposed to Forbidden West, that you know where you are, you know what this is, and the fact that they're still able to accomplish that amount of just like shock and awe and making you want to explore these areas, I think is solely impressive on its own. What do you think?
Yeah, like even even if you're not physically running from one end of the map to the other, it's so like mind-boggling that it's the same game. Like, yeah, you could be in the desert or in like the valley near the Daunt where it's kind of laid back. Like there's some woods, it's some rock, it's a little mountainous. Like you go from there to the desert and then like up into the snow-capped mountains to especially like jumping to the beach. Like if you especially if you fast travel and then you don't see the change, you're just there in an instant. You're like like the first couple times it was like, whoa, like am I in it? Like especially going from not playing it for a month and a half, it was like this is like a totally different game. Like like the biomes are so diverse and just the way they're set up and like seamlessly like you go from this like mountainous river valley into like and see it fade into desert, and then the desert fades back into like a dying landscape because of what's going on in the game, into a full on like rainforest jungle biome, right into a sandy beach. And it's just like it doesn't, it's not like Minecraft where just to that, because that's the only biome game I can think of. Like Minecraft, you can see the line. Like right here is sand, 4 blocks that way I can see dark jungle, 4 blocks another direction I can see sand, 4 blocks there I can see ice. Like you can like see the change. Whereas this, it like morphs perfectly into like not blink and you're in a different biome. It's like it creeps, then there's a perfect like middle ground, and then you're into the next one, and it just it's by far the most mind blowing, especially when you compare it to other games with this big open map. Like, um, I'm gonna keep going back to Grand Theft Auto because that's what I've played the most. Like 5, you have the cityscape. There's a small wooded area, and then there's a huge desert, and then obviously because they have it built like an island, there's a big ocean and like a few small lakes, but like they're not very seamless. It's kind of cut and dry where, and I don't know if it's just because it's of the highway system in the game, but it's you're in the city, then if you're cruising in a car or whatever, you go from city to desert or city to forest just like that. It's really no gradual. It's just you're in a new area. Where this, it's like a perfect gradual change to a middle ground and then change over into the next one. That it's by far the most mind blowing in a game that I've seen that has more than one biome or season in it.
Yeah, I wanted to overall just the sum up the map design, the world design, the foliage, and all that. It's incredibly impressive, along with the character design, along with pretty much anything visual about this game. One thing I do want to ask you though is, what do you think of the animation work within the characters? You know, not just in cutscenes. Obviously, in cutscenes, it's all mocapped and it's beautiful. But like, what do you think of Aloy's animation, her run animations, her climbing animations? Which we will, trust me, we will get to the climbing some point in time in
Um,
this review. But like, I personally thought, nothing really stood out. Nothing really made over the top, but it was all done spectacularly well in like a very expected way from the studio, from this production company. You know, everything feels like it fits.
I
Everything
feel
feels like
like it
it's
all,
good. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, like it definitely it has a nice flow. The only thing that, honestly, the only thing with the way their animation looked is when they were in conversation, you could tell that I'm assuming it's just because we're not quite there all the way with mocap, or it's not an important detail with, you can tell, because when they're doing the mocap at this point now, it's the voice actor is also physically acting the mocap
Yeah,
for
yeah, it's an
outside of
actual
the
set.
stunts.
Yeah,
So like you can tell, especially when they're arguing back and forth, they're going to do a finger point, or like an angry finger point or something, and you just see the whole hand kind of stiffly and robotically go out, robotically like motion, and you can tell that like some of that is very where instead of just a finger or two or whatever like mannerism most of us would probably do, it's a whole hand, and sometimes it looks very unnatural. But outside of that, I mean, yes, you and me really don't like the climbing mechanic, but the climbing for the most part looks very how like
Yeah,
just
it's good.
watching
Again,
because yeah, because like when we first talked about that, back in March, we both were kind of upset with the way it worked, but like watching TikToks and seeing like videos of like how people actually climb rocks, it's not far off. It's just in this setting in this world, it could have been done in a better way to make it more streamlined. But other than that, like the fighting motion, the added that we'll get more into that in the gameplay, but the added feature with the melee fighting and the honestly the projectile motion, like
the range
it
combat. Yeah,
doesn't, yeah,
yeah.
like
Fire and arrow
all
feels
that
good. It all
all that
looks
is
good.
done
Yeah,
so great.
the jumping, the rolling, the dodging, all of the animation work, I just have to say, is done great. Albeit nothing said blew me out of the water or surprised me or really made me like stand up and be like, oh, I've never seen that before. I've never seen it done in that way. It is all just very, very solid, and incredibly well done. Um, before we move on, before we get to, oh, actually, you never mind. Sorry, you were talking about the conversation, and I did want to point out a slight quote unquote negative, a little, just a little gripe about the visuals. What the fuck is going on with her hair in this game? Because that fucking thing is everywhere, and I don't know what's happening. Like two characters will just be standing still, and the camera will pan, and her hair just fucking jumps out. It's like it's fucking Medusa. It's got snakes. It's weird. But it doesn't take away from the game in any way. In like
No,
any real majority, it's just something that's constantly funny and makes me laugh. Like
yeah,
why is her hair
and
moving
it's
still?
it's it's really only in cutscenes that you catch it, because for the most part you're never really standing still. You're always kind of moving, but like yeah, in cutscenes, like it's like if you were running right before the cutscene, the model will stop to go into the cutscene, but then her hair is still going crazy, like following her running patterns or jumping patterns or sliding or whatever she was doing. And like you said, the hair, and like that was something that I feel like with a lot of the base structure of the game, they just took from here's what we're doing in Zero Dawn. This main thing with these things all worked. We're just expanding upon this and improving on this, and that like that's one of those like if we were watching a movie or like the TV show when it comes out and her hair is doing shit like that, like it's like what are you guys doing? But for this and it only being like really in cutscenes, like it's just a funny thing to laugh at or chuckle at because it's like especially when it comes to scoring some of the visuals, like that's one of the only knocks is like some of those things are like I've talked about where um especially when you're in some of the desert climates, like the people's face paint looks like it's wet, like extremely wet, whereas the rest of their face looks dry as a bone and ashy, and like it has a glare to it, and in the cutscenes and some of that it's like it didn't take away from it. It just made me chuckle. Like, your face looks ridiculous right now, right? Like, it just stuff like that. It's not perfect, but I'm not the type of person that's expecting it to be 100%. It could be worse. It could be you know
It could be a lot worse.
Madden, or it could be like Madden where the animation is completely off or not, like almost non-existent or realistic whatsoever for a game that's supposed to be a simulation. Like I've played games where it's way worse and way more to the point where it's like, yeah, I don't want to play this anymore. But this, it's not. It's a little bit of a comedic part of it, but it didn't take away from the game for me at least at all.
Yeah, last couple things I want to bring up before we move on to the next thing is obviously the machines are gorgeous. You know, intricately detailed machines that you can believe were made up of thousands and thousands of individual moving components, a lot of which you can remove and go flying during combat. It's beautiful to look at. that sometimes I died because I was just like staring at one of the machines. I'm like, man, this thing looks really cool. And then he hit me and I die. So, and then last but not least, I did want to say, spend a little bit of time on the different settlements and tribes that you come across in the Forbidden West. And I consistently was blown away by the level of detail that Gorilla was able to pack into each settlement. And also, they matched each of those settlements with the kind of vibe of the tribe or the belief system that the tribe that you experience throughout the game. Keeping spoilers away until we do the spoiler class later this week. You know, the people of Plainsong, which is a town you run into earlier, are very much farming people or farming civilization, and all of their stuff is built out of woods and logs. And oh, by the way, it's an incredibly impressive town to explore and navigate when you first get there, but it's all built out of what is believably, people of the nature and the way that they carry themselves in Plainsong would be built. And then subsequently, or, exact opposite of that, one of the first tribes you run into during some of the new desert areas, all of their all of their stuff is built out of like metal and sheet metal and machine parts and all these other things. So it's just really impressive to me how each and every time I went into a new area or a new tribe or a new town, I was kind of able to identify what kind of people they were based off how they built their towns, or I guess how Gorilla designed the towns to look. Um, and I was able to kind of link each one of those with how they run their lives or how they live their lives outside of me actually playing the game. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. And like the fact that they each have their own, you get to that one that it's, they're into the farming, like you said, everything's made
Yeah,
out
plain
of
song.
beautiful wood, or a lot of their attire was had wood coloring to it, or greens and natural colors. And then you get more into um the more warrior based tribe, and they're everything like you said is it's metal, it looks kind of like bone, it looks jagged, it looks like anything that they're wearing could be used to hurt you in some way, shape, or form. Then you had some of the more laid back, um trying to think of some without like spoiling anything. There's the like the tribe that lives up in the more of the Arctic wilderness type, up
Oh,
in the mountains. Like
the
I
bulwark.
can only think of, yeah, by the bulwark.
Oh god, the thing
Like
was so cool looking.
they're all wearing furs, and they have blues and browns and like colors that you associate with being cold or trying to stay warm from the cold. And like I think they did such a good job of also like showing that all these different tribes are out here like kind of living together, but also have their different theologies. And like, one worships the machines a little more, one has their deities, or the 10, or like it's very Game of Thrones esque the way it was set up, and everything was diverse. And it's like you could tell, like you're like, oh, is this part of this Plains area? Are these people more towards the bulwark? Like when you hit their there's the two or three like mini settlements and like shelters hidden throughout that, it's like, oh, I'm near this people. Or like even when you go towards there's it was mostly Osram from the first game and the beginning of the game
Well, they
out
were
near
all in
Vegas,
like
like
the desert area or
um
what's the town called? Oh fuck, Hidden Ember.
yeah. And then you've got like then you go out to the new people in
Yeah, let's keep that one to the spoilers.
yeah, but they're dressed, I don't want to say modern, obviously, because this is way they're dressed more in cloth, and that's where I was thinking of the laid back. Like they're not dressed like they're fighting for survival. They're dressed more like a lot of the people you come across in the major city in Zero Dawn, where it's gives off that
Meridian.
yeah,
They're
they give
civilized,
off that
yes.
meridian, we're civilizzed and y'all are savages. Like
That town that you're talking
that
about, by
was
the way, is Legacy's Landfall.
okay. I I wasn't. I mean, we already said Bulwark and Plains on. I wasn't sure if we
The
wanted to
name
go
of the
into
towns are
all of them,
fine.
but
The
yeah,
significance of that, let's keep. But
it
speaking on
like
that, I did want to tell our listeners out there, this is a spoiler-free review as best as we can, as long as we don't slip up. If we do manage to slip up, I'll cut in there and tell DJ to shut up. But after this, we
hey,
are
this should go
going
better than Star Wars.
to, yeah, we're 2 minutes in with that one. But after this, we are going to sit down and record a spoiler cast where DJ and I sit down and go through everything inside and out of this game, talk about all the different reveals and everything that we want to talk about. So if you do get done with this game, when you do play it, you can come back and listen to us talk and rave about everything we love and some of the things we dislike about the story, narrative, characters, everything about this game. So anything else you wanted to say? Oh, sorry. My bad. I tripped up. I did want to mention some cons. There are a couple things that not phenomenal, not perfectly executed. Um, I will say the only true ones are like there are some visual hitches, some bugs. We talked about the hair. Every once in a while, the camera will switch to a different thing, and there'll be maybe an object kind of like knock off the table or float in a weird way. Just little things like that. And then obviously everyone knows about the glimmering and the shimmering of distant objects while in performance mode on PS5 and while in regular modes all the way on PS4. Although that has since been alleviated post-launch with a patch that does not change the fact that it was present when the game launched, so a con is still a con, and it's still worth mentioning. However, like I said, those things are no longer a part of the game. But overall, before we move on, I can confidently say this is one of the best looking games ever made.
Totally agree.
All right, and with that, we move on to our next topic. Probably going to be the shortest one because I don't have a lot to say. But hey, we're going to go to sound and score here. Start out at score. It is great. The same theme song, the same songs that were great in Zero Dawn are great here in Forbidden West. You have Aloy's theme every time it comes in. That's super emotional, super resonant with me because that song means something and I have a connection to that song. Some of the new songs, especially the themes of the different tribes, like we were saying, the tribes up in Plainsong, also known as the Utaru. Those are great. When you meet up with the people of Memorial Grove, which is like the capital of the Western people, who for some reason I cannot remember the name of the people, but I'm sure I will eventually.
Were Tanakh too?
Tanakh, yeah, thank you. There we go. The
Okay.
Tanakh people, yeah, that's the Tanakh are the main people of the main civilization of this game. So thank you. But yes, all of those tribes get their own themes and their own songs, which are all great. I will say that nothing is standout. Nothing's really new or redefining in any way. So I guess that technically is a negative, if it even is a negative, that nothing's brand new or anything like that. It all is very been there, done that, but in like a positive way. Like we've heard that, but sometimes I listen to the same song over and over again because it's a really good song. So it's kind of like in that same stance. Well, nothing here is blow your socks off going to change the world in terms of score or anything like that, but it's all just as good as it was in Zero Dawn. I do want to have, before I turn over to you, DJ, I did want to shout out the musical accoutrements that go along with the opening and closing credit sequences, which by the way, just those in general, while they are spoilers, and we'll talk about them later, especially the closing scene, massive spoiler, we'll talk about that in a bit. They are incredibly well done closing credit sequences and opening credit sequences. Just I remember both of them. I remember what happened during the opening, and I definitely remember the closing credit sequence because it's probably my favorite closing credit sequence ever, which is a weird thing to kind of remember, but it's that memorable of a sequence. It's that memorable of a thing. It was like a 5-minute scene, and I just watched the entire thing. I never once skipped it. So, what did
I
you?
was waiting. I was trying to Snapchat you that Snapchat I sent you saying that I was done, or like,
Yeah.
hey, guess what, motherfucker, I finished, and I kept getting lost in watching it, and
No, it's beautiful,
my
dude.
my phone kept going in and out of focus, and I was like, oh, dude, you're trying to take a picture, and then I was kind of waiting for like a title to come up to like you've done it. And I just kept getting lost, and I was like, I almost didn't even send a picture. I was just gonna send you a message just like, hey, I finished the main story, like we're good to go. And it like, yeah, it just, and the sound, I mean, I I
Well, let's stick with score real quick. We'll go to sound in a second. What do you think about the score?
okay.
Do you agree? Anything
Music
about it?
score wise, just music is a big thing. Like I have playlist upon playlist upon playlist, and it's very hard for something to get on. I have a playlist that's literally just movie and game and TV show soundtracks. Um, the movie one has Tron Legacy, Interstellar, Gladiator, the end credit scenes from Silicon Valley, just because they're all bangers, and then the score, it really helped. Like we were talking about the visuals, like paint a great picture, and then this is just great background music to look at the picture that's painted before you. Like it's it's almost like it's not quite Star Wars level, but it's like some of the themes hit just like that. Like when you hear that theme, it's almost like hearing the Imperial March. Like Darth Vader's about to roll up.
Well, I
Like
don't
when
know if
you
it's
hear
that
Aloy's,
good, but like Aloy's theme is
well,
very good. But I don't know if it's
whatever.
as recognizable as like the Empire Strikes. Oh, sorry, the Imperial March.
Aloy's theme hits. Aloy's theme hits more like how Luke Skywalker's theme hits, where it's like when it starts, you start hearing the instrumental kick in, something emotional or important is about to happen. It's not quite, yeah, Darth Vader's on his own level,
Yeah,
but it
nothing.
definitely, it gives you, it pulls that, it triggers that emotional, like, oh, something cool is about to happen, or something important, or like when Luke's theme plays throughout Star Wars. Like just hearing that start, something important's about to happen, or
Yeah,
something.
it's like binary sunset. Like
Yeah,
when that thing is coming on, when the Force thing is hitting, you know something majestic is going on screen, and that's kind of yeah, like you're saying the same way. Uh, as you're saying, I did kind of think like maybe it's a situation where like everything is so good and perfectly represents the mood and elicits the proper feelings that it's supposed to, that kind of fades away a little bit. Maybe that's where a little bit of me saying, there's nothing truly new or redefining is the fact that it's all just so pinpoint and spot on that it kind of fades into into the background and does what it's supposed to do and elicits those responses and those emotional beats when it's supposed to do. So, that is where maybe again, my negative is really not a negative. It's nothing's brand new. That's my only thing I could come up with. But
yeah, I
so I'm
totally
thinking it
agree.
kind of sits like that. Yeah. Now going on to sound design, this is the only category of the entire review that I sat and I sat and I sat and I thought and I kind of went back through my notes and I can't find a single con. I think everything in this game sounds impeccable. From the way that you shoot your arrows to the way that they interact with the enemies, from the sound of the machines. Each one is distinctive. You can honestly identify what machine it is based off not just its footsteps, but like the different like outward noises that it makes and its different um I don't want to say like calls, but like the different noises that the machines make. They're all identifiable on their own. Like I know the difference between a scrounger and a claw strider. Those are two very distinctive noises that those
Mhm.
creatures make.
Just agreed, just from the way they walk, um,
Yeah,
the way they cry out in pain when you hit them with stuff, the way
it's kind of
they
heartbreaking at times.
yeah, the way they go like alert, because some of them have a few of them have an alert like siren that sound off, and it's not just same siren across the board. Just like some of them make different, like some of the bigger animals make a more guttural like sound when you hit them with an arrow or get a critical hit, whereas some of the other ones it's like a higher pitched chirping and just a real painful, like when you step on a pet's paw, like it's that kind of sound. You can hear when an arrow gets let go. Like obviously we're seeing it, but like playing with the headphones on, like you can hear when
That
you shoot the arrow
yeah,
and
that
when you're engaged in combat, you hear arrows whizzing by you,
yeah,
and
and that
it
little
just
stretch
poof.
of that string when you pull the string back, you kind of hear that stretch,
Yeah,
and especially in the DualSense, man, you need to get a PS5 just for that DualSense. Firing a bow feels freaking incredible in this game. There's that there's that little response in the trigger when you pull it back when it gets a little tight. There's a little bump when you hit the back of it. It's all so cool. But like even outside of the loud bombastic moments of this game, the visual design, the audio design, and everything's going off when you're in the heat of combat. That's all great. But what really impressed me was what happens when none of that stuff's going on, when there's no loud battles going on, when you're just walking around a pond or a waterfall or just a forest and you're just kind of just walking. You're not running. Maybe, you stop to pick something up and you just kind of listen. And the ambiance, the noises that you're really not supposed to notice or you're supposed to hear in these kinds of designs. That's all the same thing as we're talking about. It's impeccably done. I remember one time I watched a rabbit jump across the screen and just listen to his sound design and like the noises that the rabbit would make and then the noises that his footprints make. And then I shot him because I needed his fur. But still, it was very
same.
cool for the first like
I
30 seconds
actually
that I
did
stood
it.
there.
I actually did it the other night with I was watching to see, like, just because I knew we were going to be talking about some of this, like, to actually see, um I'm pretty sure it was either the chuckwalla or it was a horned lizard, but just to hear the little like thudding and flapping of them like trying to scurry away, and then do a quick little arrow shot, and you hear like just that "Meow" of like a reptile dying, or like when you shoot a couple of different the pig species, a peccary, peccary, the little
Oh yeah,
pig.
yeah, it's a
Um,
fucking pig, you
they
know.
they make that, like, unless you do a perfect like headshot, like if you hit them once, you'll hear that like dying pig squeal, and it's like a little like, oh man, but it's like, well, I need your fur
Yeah, I needed the
because
leather to upgrade my bow, man. Come on now.
I I gotta get these upgrades. So come on, and just some of the, and like even like they could have just phoned that in. Like other games have phoned in where it's like, oh, a bird dies, it makes this sound, but there's like four different bird species to kill in this. There's two different hog species. There's two or three different lizards. There's, well, I think even the scorpion makes like a weird squirt sound when you hit it. Like the rabbit makes a sound when it gets hit. Like they could have legit just phoned that in, just gave us like a quick little meh dying animal sound, but like every single animal has its own distinct, like, you kill an owl, it makes a weird owl dying sound. You kill a vulture, it makes a weird vulture dying sound. Like it just it's like they knew that, not that they knew, because obviously they're making this knowing that somebody's gonna nitpick it, but I mean EA gets nitpicked all the time. They don't give a shit what people say about it. But like Gorilla was like, nah, we're gonna care that people are gonna nitpick, like, oh hey, because they know somebody somewhere out there is gonna be like, well, they really phoned it in when you kill an animal, and it sounds the same every time it dies, or like even when you face off against other humans, like they don't all make the same sound when they die, and like even that was like it kind of depended on where you hit them, and especially where you hit them for the kill shot on what sound they would make, and it was like it was so above and beyond that it's like, yeah, there's no like even in like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead, like a guy gets shot, he's making like almost like a Wilhelm scream every time, just and dies. Like it's like almost the same across the board. It's just, was it a male or a female that died? That's like the only difference. But in this, it's like everything makes a sound, or like even you're saying, just sitting in like the wooded areas or in the rainforest and just hearing like the little bit of life that's out there, like just hearing birds or insect sounds, like stuff that you hear when you actually go out in nature in reality, was awesome.
Yeah, overall, again, just like visuals, top notch, excellent here. Before we move on to gameplay, I did want to bring in the Birdman himself, Logan B. You've been awfully quiet over there. Just wanted to make sure, check in, everything's going good. Any questions you have, any reactions, anything? Just Just wanted to check in and maybe make sure you're still breathing at the minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I was basically just waiting till you got the gameplay. Definitely will disagree on DJ's point of saying that the people in Red Dead only make one noise. I would like to disagree with that point. But everything else has been good and correct, I would say. But I have something to say when you get to gameplay. I'll have a few questions there.
Okay,
I
well
think
get.
they're, in my opinion, the most important question for me. So.
Okay, well
In
you
my
know what?
defense, I've never played Red Dead. I was going based off of Grand Theft Auto more.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah,
Grand
I was
Theft Auto,
like,
Red Dead,
I'm
dude.
pretty sure
No.
he said Grand Theft Auto, not Red Dead, but I wasn't gonna correct you because it doesn't matter that much. So Red Dead's amazing, by the way, for those of you that don't play it. Um, but honestly, before we get into it, please ask your question.
Oh, me? Okay.
Yeah, just ask your question and we'll answer
All
it before
right.
we get too deep into it. We'll try to answer it the best we can because I got a lot to say about gameplay. It is actually my lowest scored category. Spoiler alert. So I mean, still not bad score, but it's just my lowest one that I scored. So
So, for my biggest question, and I think it's probably, in my opinion, the worst thing about the first game that it really just made me not enjoy it as much as I probably could have, is the humans. I know the most important thing that you fight in the game are the robots, and I'm sure they're as good as the first game. They nailed the gameplay in the first game, but the goddamn humans, man, they are just so tedious to fight. They're not fun to fight. They're not difficult to fight. They are the stupidest AI to ever exist. They're just boring. They're lame. I didn't find any enjoyment with fighting the humans in the first game. So that is the biggest thing that I want it fixed in the sequel. Is it better? How is it better? Explain.
well, before I answer the question, I will state that while I also think the human combat in Zero Dawn is lacking, I don't hate it. I don't think it's the death of a video game or anything like that. I do think it's lacking. I do think it's very easy to manipulate the AI. Um, I can say with this one, and I'll bring in some of the other points that we'll go into a little more. Oh my god, that was a sentence. We'll go in depth a little bit more later on in the gameplay section. I can't say that it is, to me, even as a guy that didn't hate the first one, but I didn't necessarily love the first one. It is maybe not significantly improved, but it's improved enough that I didn't care about it anymore. It was just more combat, and it's very different from the machine combat. And I think if you're asking for ways that they improve it or ways that it's better, the AI is definitely better. The enemies that you fight are more varied, more interesting. You have melee enemies, you have range specialist enemies that can like do different dodge moves and do different tricks that you have to react to innately within the gameplay. Um, and there's different sniper enemies. There's a lot more varied enemies, and I think the actual combat designs, the designs of the combat encounters and the places that those take place are more open ended, which leads to a much more natural way of going about it than as opposed to the very narrow and corridor like aspects of some of the camps in the first game. And then the biggest thing to me is the inclusion and the upgrade of a more in-depth and layered melee system that now gets its own skill tree, which I said we will go into more in depth here in a couple minutes. But the inclusion of that melee skill tree, at least the way that I played, was the way that I actually engaged in human combat most of the time. Is I would get up close and personal and be able to pull off combos and other aspects, and that's how I engaged in the more human um, combat encounters in this game. And I think that honestly is one of the biggest changes, along with some of the other mechanical changes that they've made to it. So my final answer, I hope that answered your question innately. My final answer is it is significantly improved. Okay, maybe not significantly. It is improved to the point that I don't think it's no longer a problem in the franchise.
Okay, other question then. I
Hold
know
up.
you said innate.
DJ,
Oh,
what do
yep.
you think? Do you agree or disagree with anything I said there?
No, I agree. I also like when you played in the first one, it's very even once they're alerted, they all just kind of stand in a group and shoot at you.
Or
And
run in
like,
a straight line towards you. Yeah, it's dumb.
yeah, and this one, even if you lost them, then they break off into groups, and the AI would almost try to surround you, so that either you have to flee and get yourself set up to then turn back, fire a few arrows, or set a trap, or throw a bomb, or use your blast sling, or one of those, and then take off again, and kind of they force you to, like, like some of them now, like, it's still, if you show up to a rebel hideout or whatever in stealth, and you pick them off the right way, you can get it down to where you just run up and melee the last guy a few times and it's over. But they also throw in the element of, there's people riding machines. Even if you take that kill, like, even if you headshot that person off the machine is coming after you. Like, it definitely grew and wasn't just, oh hey guys, I'm here, and they all go okay, and you can literally just either pick them all off one by one going down a line, or just front guy falls, second guy, third guy, fourth guy, that way. Like, you actually have to, like, almost strategically go after, because it's too, once you take out the leader, or the, because it's not just a leader and then three or four guys with arrows and then one or two sharpshooters. It's a leader with one big weapon,
One big
another guy
ass
another
weapon.
another guy with a heavy weapon that's launching freaking grenades at you, and then two or three people that are up close but are better at melee, and then two or three sharpshooters. So it's like, you're not just going against a a mini boss and four henchmen. You're going against a mini boss, a you know a a brute enforcer, two sharpshooters, and two melee people, where it's like, you kind of have to, like, strategically, like, okay, do I take out this guy first? Do I take out that one first? Should I take out the sharpshooters first? And, like, it's a lot more, I want to say, comprehensive approach to, like,
It's
you
more
can't
deep,
just show up.
It's more deep
Yeah,
and
yeah,
varied.
it's, yeah.
All right. Well, I hope that solves or answers your question, Logan. What else do you have for us here?
I guess one more question about gameplay, and I know we kind of talked about it, but I guess I just want to kind of put a key point on one gameplay, especially that I hope is, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but I just want to get a little bit on it. Is how deep is the stealth gameplay? Is stealth fun against the humans? I know you said that they're not as dumb and just like instantly know where you are. So like if you killed someone and someone spotted a body, are they gonna instantly know where you are like the
No,
first game?
no,
Or is it okay,
they will
they'll
look
do like
for
a
it.
search
And
party? Okay.
even if you're in the middle of open combat, if you can break line of sight and get away, it's very Last of Us Part 2, where they will look for you around the area that you disappeared, and you can kind of, like DJ kind of alluded to, if you do get in over your head, if you do get backed up or caught into a position where you're kind of not going to make it out, you can retreat back away and kind of reset in a way while they're looking for you, and they'll find you. Yeah, but it's not an immediate. Now to answer that, I don't think the stealth gameplay is very deep per se. You hide, they come around, you learn patterns. You can mark the path, just like with the machines. You can mark the path that the enemies take. And when you get into position, they get close. You can stab them, or you can set up traps. It's pretty all kind of just basic stealth gameplay. Doesn't go much deeper than learn the pattern, kill the guys. Once that fails, fight everybody. But yes, to answer your question, you can back away and they will lose track of you.
Is it like a complete lose track, kind of like, oh, okay, my buddy's dead, but we couldn't find the person, so they just get up, they walk back to their normal position they were
Yeah,
before?
they will slowly walk
Okay.
back to the path that they were on. Yeah.
So still kind of basic, but
Oh,
it's still
like I said,
it,
it's basic, but I think it functions fairly well within the confines of the game. Now, the machines, on the other hand, those fuckers will hunt your ass down. They will look for you, and even after they've lost track of you and they've given up searching and they've kind of like fallen out of their search mode, they don't necessarily go right back to the track that they were on. They will kind of meander around the general vicinity of where I guess they were designed to be. It's actually kind of cool to watch them in the way that they react with each other and the way that they communicate with each other while they're trying to find you. But just as
Okay.
always, the machine combat is significantly better than anything else in this game.
I guess I guess it's one more gameplay question. It's not about fighting humans anymore, but
Okay.
you kind of touched on it a little bit, but just want a little bit more deeper thing of what's the DualSense capabilities. Is it really good? Is it mediocre? Well, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are it is just as good as I have come to expect out of DualSense functionality. Uh, and what I mean by that is it heightens my connection with what's going on screen. It heightens my connection with the game and with the characters and how I'm playing. And it does not distract in any meaningful capacity. I will say after a while, I realized how good it was and how good it, well, that was a sentence, wasn't, I realized how good the bow felt to fire. At first, maybe I overhyped it or overexpected. I expected it to be like revolutionary with how the feel of the controller was to the bow. I expect, every little thing that happened with the bow to be felt in the controller in some way. And they don't go that crazy. They don't go that over the top with it in this game. It's very subdued, but again, everything, it serves the purpose to heighten your connection and heighten your experience with the game, which is what I personally believe that DualSense was originally designed to be and what it should be. It shouldn't be distracting. It should be a heightened experience and another way for you to interact with video games in the modern era.
Okay. I think that's it for right now.
Any other
Um,
responses you got there over there, old DJ, to any of those questions, real quick?
No, well, the only thing like too going back to is like the people do get back on their track. It's not as quick. It's not like, oh,
Oh,
I
it's not
can't find them.
immediate.
All
Yeah,
right,
they walk back
no,
to their track.
it's they will linger a bit more, especially if it's almost like if you hover right in that area, kind of hoping to maybe snipe a second silent kill. Like they'll hover in that area, or almost if they like brush into you, they're kind of like they're on such a high alert that even if you're crouched hiding right there, they might pick up on you. And so that was kind of nice. And as far as the machines go, like I don't really remember them working together. It was just kind of like, oh, the couple in the area will come and get you. But like this, like if you hit a burrower or a watcher, um, and they can't find you, some of them will sound an alarm, and next thing you know, you've got a scrounger or a ravager, or not a ravager, a scavenger, or you have something else like there to hunt you down. And yes, you can hide from it, but like he's saying, especially if it's a machine that they like called in from a different, like from nearby, that machine will like create a track, but will also take a bit to get back onto that track. It'll kind of linger in the area where it broke contact with you and try to hunt you down. So that was kind of like not mind blowing, but just
Yeah,
like
I mean,
holy shit,
yeah.
you couldn't just hide and be like, okay, like now I can go back to hunting right away. Like no, you had to like hide for 5-10 minutes before you could kind of go back to how you were approaching it.
Well, I don't know if it's that long. There might be a little bit of over embellishment
Well,
there.
yeah.
But now obviously it's all AI driven, like you were talking about, like I was talking about with the communication. It's all AI driven. It's all just face camo to make you think. But it does make me kind of think and make me feel like they are communicating with each other. The machines are talking with each other and attempting to find you. Like again, obviously it's not like that. It's all just AI driven systems and everything on top of you know everything else layered, but it does a good job of making you believe that these are innately incredible machines that are capable of self communication with each other and hunting and all that. And I think it does a good job of window dressing, I guess, if you want to call it, to make the combat and to make the stealth seem more. Any other thing you got for us, old there, old bird man?
um, I guess another quick thing is I guess all the new I guess items and accessories that you can use in the game. Would you say all of them have their uses, and also maybe do each of them add a sense to different play styles? And I know that's
Are you
one of
talking
the
about
big things I heard. Like slingshots, spears,
okay.
stuff like that,
Well,
these
I
things.
have
Also, like any, like, I don't know, I guess, I don't know if there's, like, mines or stuff you could put down in the game, anything like that. Just, do they are they all interesting, and with the choices that you put into your slots, do they add, a sense of like, "Hey, I'm playing this game, this style compared to the other player that's playing this game?" Does it add a lot of customization to how you want to be as Alloy? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
short answer. Abso-fucking-lutely. Long answer. Let me get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go into the combat section real quick to answer Logan's questions and just to knock it off the list. Range combat, especially against the machines, is some of the most engaging and bombastic combat I've ever played, and not only an RPG, and not only an open world game, but it is simply some of the best combat I've ever had the pleasure of getting to delve deep in. The combat is much deeper than the previous one, with honestly, like Logan was talking about, and where I can only gather he has taken influence from Elden Ring. You can make full on builds with this. If you want to be a trap focused character, you can do that. There's ways, there's a whole skill tree, there's armor sets, there's weapons to do that. If you want to do range combat, like the way that I play, which I focus on extending Aloy's concentration ability as long as I can to essentially be in a perpetual state of slow motion during combat, and really feel like a true master of the battlefield in the way that I can control and manipulate the enemies or the robots around me. Like we touched on earlier, there's a whole melee focus build with its own devoted skill tree that allows you to unlock different combos and master them and learn the different ways that each combo can work for you in different situations, whether that be against machines or against the human enemies, which is where I think the melee combat shines the most. Or maybe you want to be like, they even have a new monster machine master. I don't really know what to call it. I forgot what the skill tree is called in the game. That is totally dedicated to making you essentially the general of your own machine army. Like you can override as many machines as you want once you have this skill tree fully leveled up. You can, set all of them to attack. You can set some of them to defend. You can do a bunch of different stuff. And what's great is you can mix and match those. If you wanted to mix the concentration abilities with the machine master abilities and be like this hybrid ranged artist that like fucking rolls around on his machine, or I guess her machine, and sends in 6 machines into a I guess like town, or I can't remember what it is, a camp to take out all the enemies, and all you gotta do is just kind of roam around, just pick people off from your machine. All of that can be done. All of it is a legitimate play style and a legitimate way to engage in the combat of Forbidden West, which is why I personally think this is now, after Zero Dawn being one of the best, I think now this is the best combat I've ever experienced. And not only that, a very highly customizable combat system in an open world game, in a video game in general. Logan, what do you think?
Oh, no, I mean that sounds pretty cool. I kind of like that. Again, obviously, yeah, you're kind of right. I brought that question up because of my influence from Elden Ring. But yeah, I mean that sounds really cool. I like that it's adding a lot of customization. I like. I've been kind of really getting into those kind of games now, where you can actually, kind of change up your play style and pick a way or a style of character that you would like to be. So yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. That's a really good answer. I mean, I guess what does DJ think?
Yeah, I mean, it gives you kind of like a shock and awe type where you can, sling sticky bombs, sling just little like bomb grenades in general, set up your normal traps. They give you like you've got your normal elementals arrows. There's also another arrow that was I think it only took like 2 or 3 depending on your level and skill tree abilities. Um that when you hit either a person or a machine, it would immediately attack. It didn't whether if it was friend or foe, it would immediately attack like the other machines or other
You're
people
talking about the
around
berserk
them.
arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Though
also
like
another arrow. Don't mean to interrupt. Sorry. There's also another area that if you have an overrid machine, you can hit an enemy with that arrow, and then that will direct whatever machine you have overridden to attack that enemy.
yeah, that was awesome. Or
I
they
never
had
used it, but it's there. So
I did it once or twice because I didn't realize what they were doing at first. So I was like, "What is not happening with this arrow? Like it's not doing anything." They also had it set up where you could shoot certain arrows and then remote detonate them, or like fill a machine full of arrows, run up, hit it with one melee strike, and basically one shot the machine. So that was I did that once or twice. That was crazy to do. And yeah, you can set up, do I want to sit back and hit from long range? Do I want to get up and close? And like me and Mike were talking about before you hopped on, there's it really lets you, do I want like to change up, like, oh, I'm struggling with this machine, so now I'm going to go this way about it. And they give you, I forget the name for it, but it's basically a crossbow that you
warrior
aim,
bow.
and then is it a warrior bow?
Are you talking about the essentially like the machine gun, or like the
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the
the,
machine
like
gun? That's a bolt
it's
blaster.
it's
But
like it's like a Gatling gun almost.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, I'm talking.
the bolt blaster.
Yeah, where it's you can lace off, and I think it starts at like 10 arrows, but you can build it up to, I think it's like 30 arrows where
No,
you
it starts
just
at 30.
rapid
You can
fire
build it up
just,
to 90.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you get it high enough and you get, you pepper a machine with a few acid arrows or tie it down, you can really do work and just demolish it. Or, you set up so that you don't trigger other animals, you set it up, you kind of play games with it, knock it down bit by bit, and really like, and it gives you all these options to um really handle any machine in any way you want. Like you can handle a
That's
big
what I wanted to
machine by
say.
just,
Yeah. I wanted to
yeah,
interject and
like
say the best thing I can say about the combat is you can do pretty much whatever you want, and you can approach it pretty much any way that you want to approach it. And I think that's the best endorsement that I can give a video game is if it allows you the freedom to play and engage with it the way you want and make it a legitimate way to play. And what I mean by that, there are certain games where yeah, you can do a certain thing, but it's not the best way to play. It's not going to get you the best results. In this game, if you just wanted to be strictly a trap guy, you can do that. That's not the way that I chose to play, and that's not the way that I built my Aloy. But I've seen videos of people do it, and I've seen people who are masters with traps and have a battlefield that's essentially a fucking minefield that machines just can't get through. So I think that's the most ringing endorsement, or the best endorsement that I can give a video game is you can approach and do things in any manner that you see fit.
and no one way is wrong. Like you're saying, like Assassin's Creed is built for you to be in the shadows and only attack from the shadows. Now, in these last couple, not necessarily that way, but it's predominantly always been attack from the shadows and disappear. This, you can attack from the shadows and disappear. You can say hello to my little friend. You can, you know, be the American sniper. You could like, there's so many different play styles and none of them are on in this, that it's awesome.
Yeah. Any other thing you got to say about combat over there, Dad Logan, before we move on to some of the other gameplay things I want to talk about?
Um, I don't think so. No, I think
Before,
that's
go ahead. Sorry, my
no.
bad.
So I think that's it. You're
Okay.
good.
Before we do move on to those things, there is one thing I did want to shout out. It is slightly a negative. While the melee combat is much improved, like I said, to the point where it's actually a viable way to go about the combat, I do think there's one more addition that they need to make in the follow up to make it an actual viable way to play all the way through. And that is maybe a block button or maybe some way to defend yourself against the machine enemies, because against the human enemies, your melee is able to interrupt them, and that can allow you to kind of actually do the combos that the game presents to you and initiate and act in certain ways and react. Against the machines, you don't interrupt shit. You can be hitting a machine, getting ready to do a final sequence or the final segment of a combo, and it'll hit you, and you're done. You're knocked off. Which I get it. You're fighting a machine as a human. I understand. It's kind of a null and void complaint, but it is kind of a headache and an annoyance when I really just wanna just do a simple melee combo on this machine, and I can't do it because every time I go in, he hits me and knocks me off. So maybe think about adding a black button. A black button? Well, that's not what I want. A block button, Gorilla, in the next game. God damn it. Well, that got awkward. All right, now for real, anything else you guys want to say about the combat before we move on to a couple other things?
No, I think we summed it up pretty good. It's
great.
universal to every game style. Like I don't want to say perfect, but it's up there for being perfect.
Yeah. Want to move on real quick to the exploration. Well, I personally think the exploration doesn't break any new grounds, mechanically speaking, or anything like that. I think Gorilla does present a world that is, like we've said and we've talked about, is wholly interesting and ultimately inviting that I just want to get enthralled with and live in and get mesmerized by everything that's in this game from every street that looks like it's been reclaimed after thousands of years to every piece of civilization that's been built up since the end of the world that looks like it's been scrapped together from the ashes and the remnants of those that came before. I've stated before that I think Zero Dawn is one of the most interesting worlds of the last generation. I think it's for me personally it is. Forbidden West just re-insinuates that and really hammers down the fact for myself personally, this series and this world that we exist in is one of, if not the most interesting built in the modern landscape of gaming. Again, for me personally, Logan, I mean DJ, fuck.
Yeah, it just like you said, there's so much going on, and just it was kind of an annoying side thing to line up the old visuals of what the stuff used to look like, but
Those
when
things
you
sucked.
did get them,
Those things were not
yeah,
fun.
but when you got them to happen, like just seeing what it was, and then seeing its decrepit, like what's left, 1,000 years later, it's just like, holy cow,
Yeah,
like.
and the fact that it was intrinsically tied to Elizabeth Sobek and what she was like before the fall of humankind and everything like that. Which, speaking of that, is one of the things I want to get into real quick is the collectibles. And just like Zero Dawn before this, Forbidden West presents what, in my opinion, is the most enticing collectibles in an open world because they are intrinsically intertwined with not just the narrative of the characters and the world around you, but they lead to a much deeper appreciation for the world that you exist in as a player because you get all these different stories from either characters you know or characters that you learn to know throughout the process of collecting all these collectibles. I did want to put a shout out, especially to the black boxes, which it's not a huge spoiler because it doesn't have anything to do with the narrative, but it does deal with a certain group of soldiers fighting during Operation During Victory. And once you complete all the collectibles, you get the ending to the stories. And um, it it was weird for me because like I had this sense of attachment to characters that existed and died thousands of years before I even discovered the wreckage of the plane that I found this black box in. And all the collectibles are like that in both Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. I've been saying it since Zero Dawn. These are the best collectibles in open world RPG because they have such an intrinsic link to this world and the characters that exist around you, and that's what makes me want to go after them, not just the trophies. I personally think I would go after these collectibles even if I wasn't a trophy hunter and I didn't care about the trophies. I think they are that well done and that well linked to the stories and the people around you that I would go after them because I have a connection, because I want to know everything I can about this world. Sorry, DJ. I was
Yeah,
yawning.
those definitely, like you said, they tell a story that has, I don't know if it's because if they included this just to include it, because I mean they kind of gave you something like that in Zero Dawn, but like this, I I don't know if it's because the deal was almost in place or was in place or was locked down for the TV show, but it just added such a layer to, because you can tell she Aloy really
Has a
in the
connection to these
the
people.
yeah, especially within in the time skip they give you in the beginning of the game, that like she more so now than ever, because I mean the end of Zero Dawn really tugs at your heartstrings, where she she understands that she is Aloy, she's her own person, but she's also the legit reincarnation, re-embodiment, I mean clone, daughter, whatever you want to call her, of Elizabeth Sobek. And she really cares, like
Sorry,
the
could you
like
hear
some of the
that?
antagonists say, like, you don't need to care about all this, like you're not her, like we get that you're her but you're not her, like you don't have to give a shit about this, but she does. And it's just like, holy cow, like, and the way that these built, like you said, there's no trophy for getting all of them.
Well,
Like
there
I
is.
think you,
I'm saying
oh,
no. There
okay,
is. What
there,
I
yeah,
said was
there
even
is,
outside of
but
that, I feel like
yeah,
personally I may still go after them.
yeah, and like I don't think they give you, other than giving you a complete story, and they give you, you get parts to trade for to make other upgrades and stuff of that nature. But like you're saying, even if they didn't have a trophy, I probably would have went and got them all. I mean, there's only like 10 or 12 of them, and they're not incredibly hard puzzles. They're unique little kind of mini puzzles, not like getting the ornaments for Vegas out of the ruins, but
Oh, those
um
things.
oh
Okay,
god.
and that is actually a negative that I did want to point out real quick. And this is not a negative with Forbidden West; it's a negative with video games as a whole. Developers, if for some reason you're listening to this review, please find something other than box puzzles. I'm so fucking sick and tired of box puzzles. I'm so tired of pushing a stupid box around for what feels like a generation to solve these puzzles. All right, I'm off my high horse now. You can continue on.
Oh no, you're totally right. There's, like I said, there's that one where I didn't know you could stack the crates, so I thought I
You're
legit
welcome for that, by the way.
broke. I legit thought I broke that puzzle. I was like, great. I, whether or not I could get a trophy for those, if I could have got a trophy, I'd have been really mad. But I was like, I don't know if it's the the autism or what, but it was just like, if I can't finish this puzzle, like I'm gonna have to do, like, because I'm not huge on doing the new game or the new game plus. It just doesn't appeal to me, because if I'm gonna beat, like, I mean, maybe I'll go back again eventually someday and pick this up and be like, hey, let's do new game plus, so I can, do the new game and then do it with all my max upgrades and just breeze through it and just really enjoy it
Well, actually, during the new
without.
update, they actually added new legendary weapons to New Game Plus. You can only get in New Game Plus too. So cool shit.
Ooh.
Speaking of
um
legendary weapons, that is actually a reward for each category of collectibles, whether that be the black boxes or the ornaments or um shit. What's the other ones? The Vista points.
there's
Yeah, the
and
Vista
and
points.
there's the contracts.
Yeah, salvage contracts. Yeah. So for all those, there is a legendary reward awaiting for you at the end. So not only does it give you narrative reason and narrative backing to go out and do these, it gives you a gameplay reason in terms of better gear and better weapons. It also does give you the trophy at the end of it, which is to me the most important thing in life. All right. Anything else before we move on to the cons? Because there are two big cons that I wanted to talk about.
No, yeah, go ahead and move into
All
the
right.
cons.
Number one, ladies and gentlemen, the fucking climbing in this game. And let me start by saying it's not the fact that it's a limited climbing system as akin to something that's like in the new Assassin's Creed games or a Legend of Zelda where you can climb in on anything. I actually think that lends a sense of authenticity to the climbing. Like you're an actual rock climber that has to look around for handholds and you have to like actually plan your route up a mountain, which is what the focus leads you into. It shows you all the handholds are. Obviously, it's still not, you don't have to actually look around. You just kind of gotta follow Aloy, but thematically, it kind of fits a little bit, and I actually like that about it. The fact that it is limited in a way, because I really don't like the new Assassin's Creed games climbing systems. I think one of the reasons of the old Assassin's Creed games not to get hooked up was the fact that you actually had to look and climb things and figure out why. Anyway, my problem is actually with the system and how it interacts with the animations that are on display. Like you said, the animations are very detailed and very realistic. And for some reason, this game continually says I can't go somewhere or I can't do something or I can't climb this because either the animation won't fully complete or it just won't allow you, even though the game visually with that yellow indicator says I can go there. And then it just consistently goes to the wrong handhold. It does the things that have been other in other games, but when it happens constantly throughout the entire course of an 80+ hour playthrough or however long you play this game, um, for me, it happened too frequently for me to not consider it to be a negative and a pretty big annoyance throughout the game. Honestly, the biggest annoyance throughout the game for me is the inconsistency with the animation or collision or whatever's happening with the system that makes it not work the way that I want it to. And that is to me my biggest complaint about this entire game is the climbing system. DJ?
For me, that annoyance was like unnecessary climbing points. Like, okay, we want you to go up to this mountain. Okay, well, now climb to the peak. Okay, so I start climbing to the peak, and next thing you know, I've got all these little like mini peaks that are deviating me away from my point that I'm going to. But like, and I couldn't climb just straight up or even like take a specific path. It was here you can climb up this ridge, this ridge, this ridge, this ridge, this ridge that have nothing to do with where you're supposed to be climbing to, but then the way it looks like you should climb up to it, you can't actually climb up it like you're saying. Like it's like why like when you do your scan to be like, okay, where do I got footholds and handholds? It's like why the hell would I want to climb up on that right there? Like that's already the top and past the top. Like I want to climb right here, and it would set you up to do the motion where you're gonna make a big leap and try to catch, and then it wouldn't let you leap to catch. It was just like, nope, you're stuck here, and it's like, what the hell do you want from me? Like, and why can't you just give me like some of them would have that point where you could jump and use your rope caster and just shoot up there, and it's like if people have these throughout this entire map on almost all these major mountains, why just not give me that to just at this point it was like at some points, especially towards the end, it's like just let me rope cast my way up to this. Like I'm over this janky climb system.
Yeah. I think if a game actively encourages you to Skyrim climb, which is what I've now currently dubbed the way that you climb mountains by jamming the X button and hoping that your character jumps the way you want it to. If a game actively encourages me to go after and do things that way, that's a big old negative in my book. Even though it is fun to do things that way. My second big negative, my second big takeaway is the skill tree. Let me explain. In the same breath as talking about how good the combat system is and how good everything on display here is, the skill tree that backs the combat up is, in my opinion, completely and utterly uninteresting. Filled with almost exclusively incremental stat upgrades that really only give you a percentage buff towards abilities that you've already been utilizing and you're already understanding, really leads to, in my opinion, again, is a numbing upgrade experience that can mostly be forgotten about for large swaths of time throughout your playthrough. There were times where I would go over my menu and I'm like, oh shit, I got like 34 skill points that I gotta use and put somewhere. So, excluding those gripes though, is the melee skill tree, which gets again, it gets its own tree, and that does include consistent upgrades, not just to your own abilities within the game, but it further deepens the actual base combat of the melee by unlocking other combos and unlocking other skills that allow you to further interact in a deeper way with the melee skill tree that the skill tree for the range combat and some of the other things just doesn't allow you to do. It just makes you more effective in what you've already been doing instead of changing and modifying your way and having you become better in any meaningful capacity. Not as big as a negative, but still a negative as opposed to climbing. DJ?
Yep, agreed. Like I even still, I literally focused on the my warrior tree first, and then while sporadically doing my like healing and medical stuff and my melee tree. And then as far as like I should have read in depth more, and maybe I would have focused on doing my um the machine branch. As far as like the infiltrator for like I really was only using that when I was doing some of the rebel bases, which I mean I still have a handful left, but like I didn't there. I think there's another one that one of the two shorter trees. I literally did just to get it over with, so I wouldn't have to waste any more like or like you said, where I got to a point where I had 20 20 to 30 points to spend. Well, I knock out my couple major big ones. Well, now I might as well go back and knock out these couple of 1 2 point upgrades. And like some of them, I legit only used because you have your when you would open your weapon wheel, you could then trigger one of your things in one of these trees. And I only used two or three the whole game. I used power shots. I used the one that made the
Are you talking
elemental
about the
arrows.
weapon technique?
Yeah.
Oh, I use those all the time, man. I was always spamming
Well,
those things. The one with the bomb dodge that throws out like 5 bombs, thing's a fucking cheat code.
so I used that one after after like I read into them because like really like legit because it was kind of like man like I don't like care about all of these. So like I legit went through most of the game only using the power shots one just because I did a lot more range stuff. So it's like let me just rock machines and people with these power shots and blow through stuff. But then when I got back into playing this second time, I was using that one because like you said, it's like you just plop, there's 5 bombs and have
Yeah,
fun chasing
done.
me now.
Yeah, done.
Um, especially with that goddamn boss fight. Oh my god, that was almost a throwing controller a few times.
Wait,
Because I was
which boss fight? The end?
yeah.
Oh, it's not that bad. Come on, man.
Well, it's because I was trying to do one play style and I should have been doing my other main play style. And as soon as I switched to that, I kind of got a pattern down, and it was literally like 2 tries and I had it done.
Oh.
And I switched. I
It was
from
very
there I
chaotic, I
used
will say that. There's a lot of
from
shit
there
going on.
yeah. And there I used three different ones. I used the bomb dropping one, I used the power shots, and I also utilized basically making your to trigger the elemental state to where they're kind of where machines and anything would power down that bit so you could really rip off shots. I would switch to that, and basically it's one arrow puts them in the elemental state. So it's like one arrow, acid, armor's weak, and just start ripping shots.
Yeah.
And then like and to get in and out of that, like that was okay, but it seemed like almost like they were trying to do too much. I don't want to say too much because it was nice, but it was like they gave you 4 or 5 different options of gameplay style, like stealth, trap, in your face, punch you in the mouth, hit you from far away. Like they gave you kind of those 5, but then they give you 5 play styles through the trees that it's are you going to just be able to be a tank because you can heal yourself so crazily? Are you going to be able to do ranged? Do you want to do melee, which on some of the bigger ones, like you said, because you can't parry or block taking that shot, doing melee on a big machine, not the greatest idea.
Wait,
Like you
hold on.
said,
Were you sorry, don't mean to interrupt. Were you I just realized, were you talking about the weapon techniques or the valor surges when we first started talking about this?
the Valor surges.
Okay, yes, those are the ones I found two that worked for me and didn't do anything more. Okay, my bad. I thought you were talking about the weapon techniques.
Which Oh no! The weapon techniques were fucking were those were amazing. As far as the valor surges, like I only use power shot and what was the other one? The to make the elemental arrows basically be one shot to trigger the elemental response. Those were like the only two I used the whole game, just because some of them, like especially when you're fighting a bigger machine, doing the stuff with the melee so that it would you could trigger that response and do like a massive critical blow. Like some of that's not working on a big machine, so it was like I don't want to switch into have to like power shot I could use throughout the entire game the way I played it. The elemental surge I could use throughout the entire game the way I played it. But like the melee one, like it was like okay, if I'm going into a group where like if I would have had to fight a big number of humans, then maybe I would have used it that because I would have just been swinging my spear and messing fools up. But like some of those valor surges, I was like, I don't care about these at all. Like some of them, I'm only gonna get just to get all the skill tree completed, and that's it.
Yeah. There was one that I switched to after the power shots, and the other thing, which is one I played most of the game through. I found I forgot what the name of it was, but it's essentially it's one of the ones in the health tree. And essentially makes you invincible. Like you gain a percentage of your health back every second, and there were plenty of times where I would just stand in front of a thunder jar and just rain down fire upon him. Well, my health
I
was just gaining back, so that's the one that I ended up going with in the end
I
game while I was trying to collect some stuff.
I did try it during that final boss fight just once, just to see, because like my problem was the first, because I went through it one play style where I was legit just trying to hit weak spots and hit with power arrows, but not worry about hitting with acid arrows to knock off some of the armor. So I was legit just standing there because it wasn't working at first, and it was kind of working, and then there's a few times where that final boss health bar is just so much bigger, and especially because I kind of went underprepared, which usually I don't do because I wasn't sure what I was in for. So then I changed to that, and that almost got me like to the ending, but it still was just not enough. And then I like I was like, okay, let's stand back, breathe. Okay, it says I should do this, this, and this. Change to more that playing style, which I had used for most of the game, and then it was like, yep, there you go. It was all just about using smoke bombs and kind of rope a doping and keeping my distance, and then I crushed her or crushed them right away. So that was kind of. But other than that, yeah, it was some of the skill tree just seemed unnecessary, but I suppose that all goes back to it depends on how you're playing the game.
I still just think there was a lot of do 100% more damage or do 2% more than this. There's just a lot of those incremental stat upgrades and numbers that I don't care about. I much rather have a skill tree like the melee one where I unlock a new combo, I unlock a new something or a new way to engage with the combat. And I thought, making me better at what I was already good at innately isn't a good way to upgrade as a player. I think it's boring. Yeah, it makes me more efficient in the game, but I'd still just do the same thing. It doesn't lead to a deeper um, appreciation or knowledge of the combat system. It just further enhances what you're already good at.
Yeah,
Moving on now to story and negative. Story and negative. Oh my god. Story and narrative. Our last big section. Now, this will probably be a short one because we are going to go in depth in it and everything spoilers talk with our spoiler cast coming out later this week. However, we will talk about the good things and the bad things that are with the story and narrative, especially the writing of this game. Leading us off, I will say the character writing on display here is yet another category where this game is far and away leaps and bounds better than what was in Horizon Zero Dawn. Um, from the deep characterization of all the companions that you meet and join you along the way to all the different leaders of the different tribes that you engage with, and all the way down to the secondary character to those secondary characters that, in my opinion, are more detailed and better written than most of some of the side characters in Horizon Zero Dawn. Sorry. And then all the main cast gets multiple moments to shine as you're talking to them within your home. I guess I can say base. It's not spoiled. Within your base, each one of them is deep and multi-layered with a bunch of great payoffs for most of the main cast. And I will just throw this in here real quick. Katalo is Bay. I'm just saying. To go
Yes.
along with to go along with the character writing, we have also a huge update in quest design and especially side quest design. While there's still the occasional go here, get this, and bring it back quest, those are now the outliers to the design. A vast majority of the side quests, especially the ones that deal with previous characters from Zero Dawn and some of the more major side quest characters, they're all multi-layered detail endeavors that span the length of multiple segments of the main quest line and exist throughout multiple acts of the game and everything like that. So, and finally, I will say most of the reveals that happened during this game had a good effect on me. They hit, they made me intrigued, made me sit up in my seat. I will say, though, that this game, significantly more than Zero Dawn, is it goes into heavy sci-fi. Like they start saying stuff, I'm like, oh, so we're just going in the deep end here of the science fiction genre. Okay, got it. Like I wasn't prepared for that at first because Zero Dawn was, while yes, it is futuristic science fiction in a post-apocalyptic world, it was still all pretty grounded with what was going on. It was believable for the world that they set up. And then this game goes fucking in. This is a science fiction ass video game set in a post-apocalyptic world. They make that very apparent very early, and at first it caught me off guard, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I kind of rebounded, regrouped, and was along for the ride. And was I eventually fell on that I think this is a very, very good negative with slight cons that way I will bring up in a second once DJ gets to talk about his stuff. To you, sir.
Yeah, I like that first the narrative in the first one of like, we tried to save the earth and then it built to what like your kind of call to action is and everything. And in this it like jumps right into like what the second one set up is, or what the first one set up, and then it kept that it brought two characters from the first game other than Aloy, two main
Oh,
characters
well,
or
no.
side characters.
Well, yeah, there was two main ones that actually go along with you on the ride, but then there's ones like Talana from the Hunter's Lodge. Um, there's Petra
Oh
that
yeah, that's right.
you meet in Chain Scrape. There's quite a few carryovers from the first game, but yeah, the two
Y-
main ones that are part of your group. There's
and
two main ones, and then three new ones. Yeah,
yeah,
eventually be three new
well,
ones. Yeah,
yeah.
one we can't talk
um
about yet. So
and I mean, especially because Aaron is always from the first game carrying into this one, he's got a thing for you, but it's like he still doesn't want to believe that, like, come on, like, you like me, I like you. Like, he's very frat boy, and he's into
he's great though,
the
man. He's just drinking at all times.
and he's into what the hell is the game called?
Machine Strike, which we will
Machine
go in depth
Strike.
and we will talk about tomorrow. I felt it was
I
better to
need to
talk
get
about.
so much better at. Um,
I got pretty good at it
he
throughout the game,
like
but it is difficult.
he he's into that, and it's just he gives off that very frat boy vibe, and then you get your couple others that really you have like a well-rounded group of characters, and it's awesome.
Yeah, the times that you're walking around your base and you get to interact with the characters and sometimes just, watching them interact with each other is I think some of the high points of the character writing here. Way more than the first game. But we will definitely get into all that heavily tomorrow. I just wanted to say here that it is all significantly better than Zero Dawn. Because while Zero Dawn had a great narrative and a great story, I think its character writing and like the individual interactions between the things was good, but nothing like we're presented with here. Some of the individual moments and some of the reveals and some of the things that they build up to here have multiple layers, as I said, and massively impactful, especially with two very important characters to the future of the franchise that we will talk about tomorrow. The moments hit when they're supposed to, and I think the writing helps that, especially with the connection that you build with this group of characters that you are that you get to know throughout the game. And like I said, Katalo is Bay. All right. Before moving on to some of the cons, I did want to say, like I just alluded to, I think the narrative and what is happening in Zero Dawn is a little stronger than what happens in Forbidden West, especially when we are dealing with some of the lore of the old world and what comes before. Um, the reveal of what Zero Dawn actually was, what Enduring Victory actually was. Um, I think that not massively overshadows, but I think it's a much more interesting revelation and story to tell than some of the reveals of the stuff that happens in this one. I can't even say the names of the people without spoiling anything. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the the old world lore that is in this game and the revolutions that come with this game, while still cool on their own right and still interesting, albeit as I said earlier, very science fiction, I think is the only part of this game that pales slightly to Zero Dawn in that retrospect. Just to finish up some of my negative quote unquote thoughts, I felt like the ending is a little anticlimactic, the final mission, especially with the 11th hour reveal of a quote unquote real bad guy that we will, I guess, have to contend with in the third game. Again, no spoilers on what anything that goes down is. I think that took the winds out of the sail a little bit in terms of how connected and how engaged I was with the story, finding out there was like something else, and I was like, oh, okay. So like, the last mission kind of really is just a glorified setup for what comes after, while it does still um finish up and conclude everything that's going on in this one. It does leave you with that 11th hour reveal of what's actually happening, and it was kind of let down by that. And finally, I think the antagonist of the game, Regalia, um doesn't get enough screen time. Clearly, I mean that's a known complaint. Like she's not there enough. While she's really
I felt the
cool,
same way.
yeah, really cool, has great setup and backstory. She is woefully underutilized throughout the entire middle section of the game. Um, there is essentially the entire Act 2. She's not a part of it. She's a part of Act 1. She's a part of Act 3 in a couple ways that you depending on what you decide to do, there is a couple ways that she can be involved. But the entirety of Act 2, she's just gone. And I think it hurts her character a lot. She could have been a really cool driving point for the narrative of what is happening with the clans people, the Tanath and the Taru and everybody around the world. But there's just a lot this game has to get through, and I think she was the oddball out in terms of narrative and story devices. Any other cons or bad things you want to talk about the story or narrative, DJ? Anything I had talked about or anything you
Nah,
want
it
to add to?
just a lot like you said. Like, you know, you get through meeting the main antagonist after the real main antagonist, because at first you just think it's Regala, which not I was fine with, but
Well, there's
the
essentially like
first,
three antagonists in this game.
well, yeah, but the beginning sets it up that it's going to be Silence again, because the end of the first game sets up it's going to be Silence, and then right off the bat it's Silence, and then because of him it's Regala. And you know when you first meet her you fight a champion, and then you go on from that and you have a couple of entanglements. But like you said, during, like, especially if you do all the main or all the sides and errands and everything
Oh yeah,
first
it's like 20,
and
30
then
hours that
going,
she's not even in there.
like, yeah, like if you're gonna call this if we're gonna set it up as an 80-hour game, it's you see her in the first, 5 to
10,
10,
yeah, 10 hours or so. Yeah, she's
and then
pretty heavily
it's
involved.
like
The
50, 60 of nothing. Like, other than her rebel camps, there's like no mention. Like, there's a little bit here and there, but it's next to nothing until the very end again. And then it's just like that was a little anticlimactic, because it was just like, this happened, that happened. Okay, now I'm not a, whatever happens happens. We'll get into that more next episode. But
yeah,
um like, and then for what you then assume Well, then they give you like another storyline, like a little bit of one that you're like gonna be, oh shit, really? When they get you to Legacy Landfall, and then you fight this, then that's after you already meet what you now assume is gonna be the main antagonist, and then
I just will say
you
there
get
is a lot of narrative to get through in this game, which I think
yes,
would
yes.
that leaves some of it feeling not as well fleshed out as the whole of what Zero
I
Dawn was.
I feel like some of the stuff that happened in Legacy's Landfall could have been pushed into the third game.
Maybe, maybe not. We just
Um,
see. But there is, I mean, there is going back and kind of thinking about it. There's a lot of shit that went down in this game. This
yeah.
is a huge, ambitious narrative game. That it says because of its size and because of its breadth and because of everything that it has to get through, leads some of it to be either rushed through or not as well developed as the much more contained story of Zero Dawn. And
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
well, and then like you're saying, like then that final boss battle happens, and not really it's a twist, but it's not like
No, it's not a
like
twist.
M
It's
Night.
like it's a reveal.
It,
You know. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like M Night Shyamalan trying to do a twist.
Shyamalan.
It was more just like hey, the reason you had to fight me is because of this, and then it's like
Credits.
so yeah, it's like the reason that we just had this little spat and boss fight is because the next game. And it was like,
Yeah.
oh,
It's like
oh,
the reason
okay.
that everything that happened in this game, it's a reveal of the reasoning for everything happening in this game, and then it douches out and goes on the next game, which is the curse of being the middle portion of a sequel. You know,
Yeah.
it's the
Well,
it's the
I,
Empire Strikes Back, which is honestly a much
I,
better middle portion, but and then
I was
it's
just gonna say that where it does it tried to break away from that. We're game two, but we're literally just a lot of gameplay and upgrades to float you onto game three. And what this did was getting you thinking they're breaking away from all those tropes and giving you all this narrative to go through. And then at the very end, like it was like it started off real quick. Here's what's going on. And then a bunch of hands of narratives were passing you around. And at the very end, it was, but
here's why all those narratives exist.
we're still the middle game and go on to the third game. And it
Yeah.
was like, whoa, why did you? Because like you get to a couple of those, and it's like, okay, like this is where the game's going. Like I wasn't really sure what was all going to happen. Like, damn, that's you're going to bring this person into the fold, and this person's got to be this, and then it's like storyline or like begin a storyline, small event, end a storyline. It's like oh, or there's the main one of the I mean we'll talk about it more in our in your crew that you build along the way, like one or two of them like are introduced, have a weird little like try to set up their call to adventure for you, and then it's like meh, 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 lots of character development and a game. oh
Yeah.
okay, like thanks, but it's almost like I
The
said before, like I don't know if they had the deal for the show in the bag, and
I
they're
mean, I'm
just
sure it was in
trying.
the works. You know, it's got to be.
I
These things don't
and
happen
yeah,
overnight. You know, they happen over
and
years and years of communication.
something tells me they might have used bits of this narrative to help paint. Because like we talked about offline throughout the day to day, what the narrative for the show may or may not be. So I think what it was trying to do was to give us characters to focus on, especially if the game is going to help lead us possibly into the third game. Um,
I don't
I
think
think
they would
they're
do
just
that.
trying
I
to,
think yeah. I think the show will be getting very off track here, but the show is will be a companion piece and not an essential
yeah.
piece. I would be really mad if it
I'm
was essential.
what all I'm really hoping out of the show is we get these handful of characters we got in this game, and like the handful because it kind of set up through the old tech and stuff that you fly through in the files you scan. It set up a decent narrative to give us for the old times. and it gave us good characters to build around and build a narrative for our time, or for like our time, our existence in the game. Like, it gave good narratives for then this show to take and run alongside of, like you're saying, be a good companion of giving us the full picture, because it's not a waste of game, but it's a waste of game to go back and look at everything that led up to why these games, like why this timeline happened. And then it also gives us this handful of characters to, like we'll get into more tomorrow. There's two or three characters that definitely, like, including some of the antagonist people, that, like, throughout both games, that it's like, I want to know more about them and why, like, why they did the things they did and all that craziness. But yeah, it just, I'm curious to see what the show is going to be about. But like you said, it seemed like they set up a bunch of these awesome narratives and then not abruptly ended them, but abruptly got you to an end point to wrap it with a bow, or put it kind of in a bow. And then, like you said, here's the end of the game. Like, oh, by the way, this
This is the reason that
a
everything happened. Boom,
yeah,
done, gone. Yeah, and it's like boom,
the
it's out
reason
of.
this, yeah, it's like, here we did all this because of this, and like, you just caused this, so
See you next
welcome to the
time.
storyline for the third
Yeah,
game. And
see
it
you next
was
time.
like,
So,
oh,
what I kept
okay.
thinking while we were talking is the way I can sum this up is the story and all that is the narrative is so big and so ambitious it almost breaks itself, but the game is held up drastically by and weighted heavily by the character writing and the individual communications and relationships you build within the characters. Now, again, the narrative is not bad in any way. I actually think it's very compelling and it's fucking cool, some of the shit that happens. It's really cool as long as you like sci fi stuff. But it is heavy. There is a lot. There's a lot of storylines. There's a lot of reveals. There's a lot of things coming down. It says it almost breaks itself, but I think it's ultimately held up by the individual interactions you have with the characters and how much you come to care about everything and everyone in this game, even from the smallest character. Like I still remember. I want to move on, but real quick, I still remember that one chick that when you're leaving the Memorial Grove after the cool route, which we will get into. I still remember that lady as a character who meets you right then and there. I still remember what her character is and the story that I go
Hmm.
on with her, with the person you need to go find for her. I still remember that, and it's just a side character. It's not even really a heavy side quest. It's more of like an errand, which are two different styles of quests. So I think all of that is props up what is still a very good and well told but heavy narrative. So
Yes.
anything else, Logan? I want to bring you back in, sir. Do you have any questions before we here at the Experience Point officially give the verdict on Horizon Forbidden West and I read you said verdict?
Um, I don't believe so. I don't think there's really anything that you haven't answered that isn't in spoiler territory. So yeah.
Yeah. Did you enjoy the hour and 53-minute conversation that we just had? We went in a lot deeper than I thought we were going to go into, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, I liked it. It was insightful. I feel like it made me learn a few things that I didn't know about it before. And yeah, I'm really excited to actually be able to play it.
DJ, any last thoughts before we give
Um,
the verdict? Sorry.
Not really. Just pat myself on the back that I managed to not Kenobi this and blurt out a bunch of spoilers.
And
So
here we go. You almost got there. There was sometimes I almost had to
I,
cut in and be like,
yeah,
but
I
you
had to
held back.
stop
That was
myself.
good.
Like, don't say those words.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion to everything that we have talked about here, our verdict here at the Experience Point is Horizon Forbidden West is a remarkable achievement in the RPG genre. Not for any revolutionary steps it may or may not take, but for the refinement of the series and the redefinition of what a narrative-driven open-world adventure can be. In almost every measurable aspect, Forbidden West is a step above Zero Dawn, from its industry-leading technical achievements in character and world design to the improvements in what was already some of the best combat in its genre, all the way to the huge leap in character writing and quest design. Guerrilla's brilliant, huge, and impactful, yet albeit safe sequel is a rousing success and a worthy companion to what is quickly becoming one of the best franchises in modern gaming. I look forward to seeing where Aloy goes next, and I can't wait to play the finale to what will undoubtedly go down as one of the better gaming trilogies in recent memory. Ladies and gentlemen, we proudly give Horizon Forbidden West a 9 out of 10 and award it our gold trophy. No one else is going to clap? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was our review for Horizon Forbidden West. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned some things about it. We are going to sign off now, and we will see you again, DJ, at least, and myself, Will, in the Horizon Forbidden West spoiler cast, coming to you in a couple days after this goes live. We hope everyone has a fantastic day, and as always, if you enjoyed this, please go over to our Patreon, go over to our YouTube channels, give us some likes, give us some shout outs, let people know how much you are enjoying us here at the Experience Points. Logan and DJ, sign it off for us.
See you guys. Thank you again for stopping by for the non-spoiler point or part of this review podcast. And as always, have a good one. And as also another shout out to our premium or Patreon member, Logan Leffler. Really appreciate your support. And as always, everyone have a good one.
See you guys in the spoiler cast.
See you guys in a bit. Y'all have a good one.